Welcome to Inspire. Once again, we are here to celebrate the arts, to talk about the gifts that God has given to us and how we can use them to bring good to life and to help tell God's story. I'm here with my co-host, Greg Evans. And Greg, we have some great artists with us today.
We do. It's going to be a good show. We've got Sean Amlaner with us, who is in film production, works in Hollywood doing that. And we've got Antoine Augustus, who is a spoken word artist. And Antoine, we want to start our show talking to you first. And just tell us about what is a spoken word artist and what does that entail? What does it mean?
Well, spoken word is, in essence, poetry.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say it's urban poetry. It's expressive, creativity in not only in the written form, but also in the performance of the artwork of the artist who is speaking and doing the work. Mm-hmm. And again, I just look at it, a little different than poetry because, saying poetry for a person like me coming with the background of rap music and things of that nature, poetry is kind of soft. Right, and so when you say that I do spoken word, now there is a dynamic and there is a credibility, I guess I can say, with the background that I have. Mm-hmm. So it's street poetry.
Yeah, that's great. How did you get started in this?
Interesting because of again the background of the rap music that I pursued. Mm-hmm. And when I came to Christ, I kind of saw that the rap music wasn't in line with the ministry, and I felt as if continuing to do the rap music, it was going to be conflicts.
Was it the rap or was it just the lyrics?
It was actually the lyrics until I understood that there could be the creativity of the rap in combination with Christianity. But at the time that I was making that transition, I just had to completely just do away with rap completely. Until I recently started understanding that the rap music was a language that was spoken. And it was on the artist to convey a better message. And so making that transition, I looked at it and I said, maybe I can pick this up again and pursue it in a different light. With the music, I felt a kind of a restraint. I couldn't say as much as I wanted to say with the music. And so when I took the music out, it was like I was open and I can just speak the way that I wanted to speak.
Interesting. So
right?
that freed you up.
It freed me completely, right? Because of the music, you had to follow a certain tempo. Right, and so as you're writing with the tempo, it was almost as if I wanted to continue writing, and then the music said, no, you need to stop. With that removed, it was like, okay, now there is that freedom, and I can now just explore, and I can, my style anyway was kind of, it didn't have a certain rhythm to it, right? And so some people say that I could be all over the place. Mm-hmm. But with spoken word, now there was the ability now to be all over the place, but still make it sound and feel, a little bit different and have it more complete.
So would you refer to it as Christian rap?
My spoken word?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay.
Because I am still kind of teetering on doing some Christian rap. Bringing the music, I believe that the music will make it rap.
Okay.
Right? You can say that it's rapping, but it's not rap music. I guess there's no music involved in it.
Sure.
So you remove the rap label. And again, I'm not too fond about the rap label more than just getting the message out.
The thing that I am intrigued with, though, is I remember years ago when I used to walk through Best Buy and they had CDs. They actually had CDs for sale. Or some of the other music stores.
Right.
And when I would walk by those stands where all that music was and look at the pictures on the front of those cases, it was almost like I could hear the voices. I didn't hear voices, but it was almost like I could hear voices, and each one had their whatever it was that they were trying to get, people to hear. And I do like the idea, though, that there could be competition, a healthy competition where there's Christ-oriented music, rap music that's right there sitting alongside the other, but it's got meaning and purpose.
Right.
And I think in any genre or style of music, there is godly music and there's ungodly forms of any style, whether it's country or rock or folk or rap, and I love that you have found a non-musical version of, speaking that does lift up God.
Right.
I think that's fantastic. And I think our audience would best understand what you do by hearing it.
Okay.
Are you willing to give us an example of that?
I sure am. Yep,
Great.
I can do this. This one here, and I'm only doing a partial. This one is called Worthy. I'm sure you guys should remember it. It says, worthy. What I see, perceive spiritually, manifests destiny. So Jesus, rest in me. His holy blood, the secret recipe, is the best in me. The melody of commune prayer set in me like telepathy, echoing audibly, silently through these mental halls symphonically, orchestrates the handwritten. See these hands submitting, the greatest testimony of God's blotting omission, sin's ambitions dead by the gospel's ammunition. Beginning and intuition, there is a savior. Entering hearts in labor, birthing new behavior. That's major life changing. From hearing the hammer to nails banging, seeing my sins hanging, his innocent flesh in anguish, death was instantly vanquished on Calvary's tree. On that old Calvary tree, death met immortality. No sting, no victory, no sympathy. See, God the Almighty provided a plan. Since earth's foundation, he extended his hand and grace was introduced to man. And no other name is worthy to save. His eternal life omnipotent he gave to pave salvation into existence. I often question resistance of those moments, those instants I rebel and create distance from his assistance. This stony feral heart's persistent, yet Yahweh's never turned away. Since Adam to modern day, he's faithfully stayed the course. No matter how much I force my sinful nature, of course, he loves me not for what I do, but for who I am. I am an external design of internal mind, needing to reflect his sunshine abundant like a radiant diamond, perfectly cut and set within a crown molding. His class forever holding, I'm a precious stone, created by the creativity of the creator at creation to create. Wait, let that marinate. I said I was created by the creativity of the creator at creation to create. Kind of means God is my original soulmate.
Wow.
Wow, that's great. That's powerful stuff.
So this next one is called Rise. You see, it's complicated. The way I'm trying to articulate it can't be calculated by man's logic, no matter how much knowledge he's accumulated. So never mind. Because your mind could never align, perception sight blind when eyeing the divine through a simplistic kind. Rewind. Let's take it back to the essence. Elohim, eloquent presence. God, Father, the author, when journalizing this scripted technical enhancement of his only begotten son's involvement, that embraces billions of sinful soul fragments embodied within a frail human God, super being named Jesus. Man, that was a mouthful. So let me say it like this to ease this. Because my wordplay plays words scripted like a thesis or biblical synapses connecting the sequence on the darkest day when the light shone the brightest. Yeah, it was the darkest day, and yet the light still shone the brightest. Christ, our highness, left his heaven to enter our hell to find us. See, none of us are the 99 because you're the one. The only one he placed his interest in and begun his journey into betrayal. By the hands of every generation that bondage jails, he wept to set free. A plan at Earth's formation. I wonder if that first tree he planted was specific. Placing it within the soil to shape the crucifix, it makes sense why Barabbas couldn't bear it, held much tense. The weight of this cross intense would have broken a man of sin. So bring the sinless lamb in without restraint. The eyes of this saint must have shown strength and a length of peaceful power, for the guards feared and cowered and numbered themselves. Gathered around, they spit and mocked a dreadful sound. prophesy whose hands have pounded our Lord's face to the ground. They beat him with cruel words, but couldn't beat him. They beat him with their fists, but couldn't beat him. They beat him with the whip, but still could not beat him. For every lash of the cat o' nine sunk deep in his flesh and reminded him of my very breath. For you, he whispered verbally that echoed throughout eternity, and a part of him rose internally. For the pain subsided the more he thought of me. Plus, the mind of a true king that settles storms can't be scorned with a crown of thorns. For that righteous mark imparts a crown of glory he wears upon his heart no man can touch.
Wow, you really have to be a wordsmith. You ever thought of yourself in that way?
No. No.
Evidence to the contrary, by the way.
Praise God.
Yeah.
You know, again, for me, it was something that was normal, right? I kind of gave this analogy to my wife not too long ago. It's like an untapped talent that has not been showcased becomes normal to the talented individual. And so I was saying it's like spinning a ball on your finger. After a while, it just becomes natural. It's just what I do. Until someone walks by and says, man, what are you doing? You know, and they notice it, right? To them now, it's like, wow. But for you, you've been doing this for years. This is just natural and normal. All of a sudden, you become a Harlem Globetrotter on TV that everyone wonders at. But again, for you, it's just
It's
natural.
what you do.
Yeah, that's
it's like breathing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just how I felt all of these years until recently. I've only been doing this 6 months ago, as far as actually putting it out there.
Sharing it.
Yes.
But you've been doing it for years.
I've been doing it for probably over 20 some odd years.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
How did you feel when you first started sharing it with others? Was that, because a lot of artists identify because their art is so personal to them.
Yes.
That sharing it really is risky.
Yes.
Because if people don't respond to it, then many artists take it as a personal rejection because that art really represents, you know, the artist. And so how was that for you?
Well, the first time that I was able to showcase or to present it, actually, it was supposed to be the first of the year. My pastor had asked if I can do, you know, spoken word for the church. So we had this whole thing planned out for the first of the year. This is what we're going to do. I had everything written out. We were ready to do it. And then there was an incident, you know, a tragic incident. I lost my niece, you know, through some gun violence. And so for her funeral, I decided, let me share a piece of myself for the first time at her funeral.
Wow.
And so it wasn't the ideal, you know, place that I wanted to begin at. You know, here it is, a somber moment. But the response that I got gave me some type of confidence and understanding, like, okay, this is something that I may be able to hone in on this and do this from this point forward.
Right.
Fast forward maybe a couple months later, this is when you guys show up at the church.
Yeah.
And I was able to present, you know, something more uplifting. And again, it was beautiful for me.
You know, Greg,
We're very glad that God inspired you to not only create the art, but to begin sharing it with others. And we're blessed today. Our viewing audience is as well. Thank you, Antoine, again.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Let's move over to Sean and talk about, Sean, you're in film production. Tell us what.
I was going to say, you know, picture's worth 1,000 words. You know, he's been dealing with words.
Yeah.
Now we're dealing with pictures.
That's right. The perfect segue. Thank you, Rich.
The combo.
Yeah.
I work in post-production visual effects. Historically, it's always sort of been the back end of feature film and film production. More recent years, visual effects, because of the advent of digital, and we call it film production, but really it's digital production mostly these days. We're involved in pre-production, production, and post-production just because of the nature of the beast. The requirement is everything is not just digital, but how much of a movie is truly reality these days is a bigger question.
What is the title of the work that you do?
Depending on the project I'm on, compositing supervisor, visual effects supervisor, or production supervisor, just depending on.
So briefly explain compositing.
Yeah, so compositing is one of many pieces of the puzzle when it comes to visual effects. What I do, bread and butter, and how I started out as a compositor, I take all of the computer-generated elements, so that's, let's say, an animated character, whether it be an animal or Disney, whatever, or anything, and then blend that with typically the live action stuff that was shot in camera. So just like on set here where we have cameras rolling, we maybe would say, well, it's Antoine and I, but really we're also going to be interviewing some random computer-generated character who's going to sit on this pillow right here. So then I would go in and I would integrate the live action with the computer-generated stuff.
Yeah.
So Sean, maybe you can show us an example of what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So if you see on the screen here, these are examples of some projects I've had a very small hand in. You might recognize some of the people or characters in it. These are again, like I said, very small examples of what I've had an opportunity to be a part of. Each of these individual shots typically encompasses dozens of people's efforts. We have people that are the on-set production where they shoot the live action, and then on into the post-production where we would be creating all the digital elements. So things like this where you see that train right there, for example, that's actually all of a matte painting that was then generated using software such as Photoshop, just off the shelf, and then composited in visual effects packages such as Nuke. You can see these other shots, such as Incredible Hulk. It's going back a few years, obviously. But like that shot right there where you can see Alvin on the shoulder of the singer. Obviously, there was live action singer, but then we had to composite this animated character.
That was Alvin the Chipmunk,
Alvin
right?
the Chipmunk, yes. You can see these different scenes right here. These are all non-existent scenes. Those are shots that don't exist in this world, but we're taking different elements of different locations and compositing them together. That shot, for example, was glass breaking, but there really wasn't that glass shattering, so we had to add that in digitally because we didn't want to obviously hurt the actor in real life. And you can see that was another addition. So all these different elements just kind of combine together to give you final shots. You can see Ralph from a Disney feature. That was compositing and doing, for me, I was working on the stereo of that, so that's another aspect where you put on those glasses and you can see things in 3D when they pop out of the screen. We have various other elements, such as this shot as well, that was also done in stereo. And then we have the tongue-in-cheek fish tank, which is just taking live-action elements and putting together. These are matte paintings, so these are all just creating impossible scenes that don't really exist anywhere in the world, but just putting them together for concept art or for final shots. As you can see, that was a matte painting of that train shot that then got turned into live action.
Wow, it represents a lot of work.
Few years worth.
So you were involved in most of those that you
Yes, anything on there I had either a very small or larger than small hand in, depending on what the project was.
If one of our viewers was inspired to say, I'd love to do that for a living, how would they, what type of education would they pursue, if any, or what would they do to get involved with this industry?
Absolutely,
and that type of work?
Yeah, it's actually it's a very good question. I've been asked that a few times. So my background, maybe this sort of gives a prelude to it. My background, I actually went to Southern Adventist University. I got my my undergraduate degree in 3D character animation. So I started out as an animator, and then I went on to Savannah College of Art and Design and got my master's degree in visual effects. Mm-hmm. So there are art schools out there that offer degrees and training in what we do up to a point. The trick of all this is, though, or the catch-22, I guess you could say, is that while degrees are extremely important, and I'm a very big proponent of getting your education and learning what you need to learn, a large portion of people don't necessarily have degrees that back the jobs that they do. And that's just because what we do is so specialized. You don't necessarily spend 4 years in college learning that one specific kind of niche, if you will.
Right.
So for example, I teach for a school online that's based over in Australia, actually, and we're an accredited college, but we don't do 4-year degrees. We basically, and so what I do, I actually train artists. It takes about a year to get them up to a certain level where we can hopefully see them get entry-level jobs. So sort of the long and the short of answering your question, there are many different ways to gain it. And then there's other people that just come in and have natural talent, and they just sit down, learn the software, and then it's just a matter of getting your first big break, so to speak, and then a second big break, and it just kind of hopefully snowballs into future employment and run with it.
Yeah, good.
I have a question. How could this technology be used to bring good to life and to help tell God's story?
It's a very good question, actually. That's, I think, the core of why we should all be here in all of our jobs, really. But in my job specifically, I see this as being, like what I do right now is just another level of my education, actually, where I'm learning from people that do this for not only just for a living, but do it to a level that is just absolutely mind-bendingly incredible. But taking that into the realm of doing it for God, I see that there's a major void in our Christian world where we evangelize in traditional manners, and we do a really good job of it because we've been doing it quite literally for hundreds of years, without exaggeration. But the evolution of evangelism has not caught up to the world that we live in my opinion. We are so media saturated right now that everybody lives with a cell phone. We've got an iPad. We have connectivity. We can talk to someone on the other side of the world just by picking up our phones or our computer. We have entertainment mediums that just enrapture us. Games, videos, movies, whatever, you name it. It's there and available at our fingertips. Evangelism isn't about, again, I have no problem with traditional evangelism, but evangelism shouldn't be about us putting up a tent in a parking lot and inviting our neighbor to come over while there is a time and a place for that. It should be about creating modern media that is on par and can compete with, bluntly put, Hollywood in a way that allows the attention spans and the desires of our younger people to want to actually participate.
Right.
The educational aspect, bringing kids in and training them into those positions and allowing them the opportunities to be able to develop a career and be creative in what they do, but also creating media for God is, to me, one of the biggest passions and desires that I have. We've seen that done in some places, but we don't see that done in a lot of other areas that need it.
Essentially, we're talking about storytelling.
Absolutely.
Right. They're modern day parables.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, if we go back historically, what did Jesus do? He was a storyteller.
Right.
So that's what I'm a part of. We
Right.
tell stories. Pastors tell stories and illustrate in sermons all the time. Why don't we take that into a modern format
Right.
and make a TV show or a movie or something? And it's been done. There are certain things done, but not on the level that I truly believe we should be capable of doing.
Yeah. There is a perception that many people have about Hollywood.
Absolutely.
And the industry that you work in, that it's filled with nothing but, ungodly people. And we know that's not true. Obviously, there are many people at your level. There are many people whose names are on the marquee that certainly are believers and followers of Christ. And working in that industry, describe to our viewers how you find, as a godly man, working in the industry and how that works for you.
Yes. Well, as a general whole, I've found people give great respect to you standing for what you believe. My personal life and my career, so to speak, while they are two separate entities, go hand in hand. Because if I don't stand for what I believe in not only just in my personal life, but in my public and working life. For example, I don't work sunset Friday to sunset Saturday. That's been the rule from day one. While I've had to give up some absolutely incredible job opportunities that honestly would have advanced my career so much more than it is currently. But on the flip side, standing for what I believe, people have respected that. And also, Hollywood is while it is a very secular world, people respect you a lot more if you stick to your guns, so to speak. And if you fluctuate in what you believe and say, okay, well, this one project, you know what, just for the easy example, I'll stay until midnight, Friday night, no big deal. Just don't tell anybody, you know. We're a small world, they're going to know.
Yeah.
You know, and also just from the simple fact that if you break the rules that you've set for yourself, how can you expect people to respect you? You know, you can't command respect, and you can't stand for what you believe in if you're willing to change that,
Right.
just for that one thing. So people respect you for what it is, and
Yeah,
you move on.
Being a Daniel, basically.
that's right.
Standing up.
And it's a risk. You have to take the risk, but, you know, that's
Right.
what belief is
Right.
taking risk.
Yeah.
One of the issues with the church, as far as doing some of these things, of course, is money. That's always been the challenge. But it really speaks about priorities, too, where the church historically has put their money, and they've put quite a bit of money into certain types of evangelism. As the effectiveness of that evangelism seems to diminish, we need to be willing to explore new avenues.
Move the money to
New
other
ways.
places.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the big challenge, because it's not, if you want to compete with Hollywood, I'm not saying you have to have $1 billion project, but you have to be willing to take the risk with the creatives that
That's
know
right.
what to do.
Right. And Ellen White, I don't have the reference here with me, but she makes a statement where businessmen think nothing of throwing money, you know, to new ventures. And sometimes they'll lose, and they say, well, that's just the cost of doing business. But when it comes to doing ministry, many times we're stingy. We're not willing, you know, to throw money on a project that we think is not going to be effective.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've come to the end of
We have. It was
Another
a great
show.
show. Antoine and Sean, thanks so much for joining us. Viewers at home, thank you again for joining us, and join us again
Yeah,
for
and-
another Inspire show.
And also, don't forget our website, visitinspired.org. Visit us there, and we'll have some of these people, ways that you can find out more information about what they do.
Yep.
Thank you.